Hello, welcome to The Revealing. I'm your host, Pavarotti. I'm here to discuss the Idaho 4 case. And I did a video yesterday, and I know I started it out kind of rough. I said, look, if you can't get past the people were actually unalived in the house, for you to move on. If you don't want to believe one single word Dylan and Bethany say, move on and don't even enter my comment section. I think I've got 1,400 comments so far on that video. Most of them are exactly what I asked not to, ask for them not to be. So I guess I got to go a little bit deeper for you. Okay. When I say corroborate, there's things that can be corroborated as true, and there's things that can be corroborated as lies. That's exactly what I'm talking about. But if you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you're just going to be in a perpetual state of what if? And then you can take and you can make up anything. It's going to be endless to the end of time. If you don't use any true evidence and it's all false, it's all fake, then you can just make up anything. And what you'll do is you'll make up stuff until it matches what you want to have happened. But you don't even realize the progression that we've all been through that's been covering this case for a long time. And for those of you out there that say you can't believe anything Dylan and Bethany said, okay, let's start with that. If you've been following this case for a long time, anywhere near as long as I have, I want to take you back in your mind to a place not too long ago, before we had ever heard any of Dylan and Bethany's statements. And all we got was the police reports, and we started talking about what the police said that they said. What was everybody saying at that point? Well, I want to hear what Dylan and Bethany actually said in those statements. I need to hear the way they said it and the way they answered those questions. Then they finally released those, and everybody goes, well, they're lying. They're all lying. We can't believe anything they say. But then I want to take you back even further. I want to take you back to before we have those police reports. Take you back to when all we had was the probable cause affidavit. Do y'all remember that? Do y'all remember the probable cause affidavit that we contemplated for years? Because all it said was what? Well, it said that Dylan heard Kaylee upstairs playing with the dog. She ran downstairs, said someone is here, and then ran back upstairs. And then she heard Xana crying in the bathroom. And everybody's like, well, how could this be true? And how many conversations did we have over that one little statement? So when I go over the thing yesterday in the video where I say there's something that Dylan says throughout that's very consistent, and I go over where their consistent statement describes a gun, her and Bethany. And as I'm doing that, it's like people don't even remember. None of that's in the probable cause affidavit. None of what I covered yesterday that Dylan said, that Dylan and Bethany said, we had ever heard for almost 3 years. And none of it aligns with what we've been told that law enforcement said they said for 3 years. That just kind of goes over everybody's head. I think they're lying. Okay, well, then if you think they're lying, do you believe what law enforcement had said? Because what they said that I showed you was totally different. Never once did law enforcement say that Kaylee was in the living room when this started, dancing and playing with Murphy. They said she was upstairs. What Dylan said, but through all three of those statements, was very consistent, and it went in face of what we've been told for 3 years. She said that Kaylee was in the living room with Murphy, listening to music, singing and dancing, whatever that means. You can break that apart in your mind 100 different ways. Well, I was doing, there's a party. She's in there, she had the music on. She's singing to the music, probably dancing around with Murphy. You know, she probably had a good night. Then she said she walked upstairs with Murphy, normal pace. Got upstairs, seen somebody, screamed, and took off running back downstairs with Murphy. And then she said she heard Murphy start barking at that point, and then she said she thinks that Murphy ran outside because the barking got further and further away, and she never heard anybody go back upstairs after that. That's totally different than anything that we've ever heard. But it's also, when I say we can corroborate what she's saying right there, we can absolutely corroborate what she's saying right there. Because we got the 1112 camera. And as soon as you hear the thuds that they listed in the probable cause affidavit, it's not something new that we've just found out. They've had that in there forever. At 417, you hear the thuds. 15 seconds later, you hear Murphy outside barking, just like you hear on the 1112 camera. And a minute and a half after you hear that thud, Bethany makes the first text to Dylan, or makes the first phone call to Dylan. Now, we now know, we can't say exactly what they said on those calls. We now know that law enforcement sit there and hammered them until they uncovered that first call. Bethany says that she called Dylan, says she heard a shot and seen a spark at 419. Now, if they're making up these text messages, which absolutely everything corroborates itself, what I'm sitting there telling you, at this part right here, it all corroborates itself. She calls, says she heard something. A minute later, she calls back. There's 41 seconds. We don't really know what's said, but if they're planning out these text messages, well, they certainly wouldn't have planned them out very well because they work exactly perfectly. She texts her back, wait a minute, Xana was wearing all black. He says, no, it was a ski mask or something over his face and nose. Once you get to that point, everything that they say corroborates itself. She heard Xana walk upstairs, see a man, ran downstairs with Murphy, screaming, somebody's here, never hears Xana again. I mean, Kaylee again. This is Kaylee. Well, Sarah Kaylee, go upstairs, never hears him again. Murphy starts barking. Murphy runs outside, just like she said. You hear Murphy on the camera barking. Boom, we had a boom and a flash. Bethany calls Dylan, says we has a boom and a flash. Dylan looks out, sees a guy with a mask. Calls Bethany back, shoot, I seen a guy with a mask. Well, Xana was wearing all black. No, it's a ski mask. If you can't get that all that corroborates itself and everything's a lie, that's why I say I need you to move on. You'll never get by it. You're wanting things to be true that aren't. Now, when you get to where things don't corroborate themselves, right? What happens next doesn't corroborate what they're saying. That's when you uncover the lies. What happens next is Dylan leaves her room to go to Bethany's room, and we know she sees Xana laying there unalived. I believe now she sees Kaylee laying there unalived. Now, we know what happens next does not corroborate their statements. She runs downstairs. I clearly hear on 1112 at that exact point, somebody go outside and shut a door. Then a couple of minutes later, we see a vehicle, a black Ford Explorer. It's not something that drove past the house, pull right up in front and meet up with Dylan. From that point forward, nothing matches their statements. And that's why I say from that point forward, after the atrocity, everything's lies because there's nothing that corroborates their statements. Everything corroborates their lies. But before that point, everything that I showed you that she said in all three of those interviews, Kaylee's in the living room, she runs upstairs, says someone's here, runs back downstairs, and then never hears her go back upstairs again. Then she hears Murphy run out of the house barking after a boom. All of that corroborates itself through the video, through their statements, through what we hear, right up to the text messages that back everything up. And if you can't get that, I don't know what to do with you. That's why I say if you can't get that, move on, because you haven't been working on this thing for 3 years like I have. This is video 730. You know how many times over 3 years I've heard 2 a.m.'s a dark hour by Ethan and Xana's parents. Give me a break. That is not evidence of anything. 2 a.m.'s a dark hour. It says in the PCA they got home at 2 a.m. Maybe they read the PCA and said, oh, that's when they got back. That's a dark hour. That doesn't mean that Linda Lane's stupid noises of people making videos that I can take a video of Linda Lane and I can turn it up as loud as I can, and I don't hear anybody saying, Ethan, well, we got Ethan over here and all this crap everybody says that they hear. But somebody can take the same video, play with the acoustics on it, ramp it up, and it makes some sounds that sound like that, and then they'll tell you, here's what it says, and your mind says, oh God, I've heard some stuff nobody's ever heard before. Give me a break. That's not evidence. That's people playing with your minds and you wanting to believe it. So that's why I say, if you're one of those, move on. I've been at this too long. People talk about these Steve G texts. I did videos on the Steve G text 2 years ago because we didn't have any information. I was trying to get to the truth, use the Steve G text. When we finally got the text messages released and we seen what they really said, that made the Steve G text pretty close to the truth, but false in itself. So people are going back to Steve G text saying, here, look what they texted. No, they didn't. We've got the text reports. Go and do the search. Go do the research. We've been through this crap for 3 years. If you're going to continue to go back to the beginning, bring up old conspiracies, then that's fine. But stay out of my comments with that crap because we've already got to the truth of the matter as it relates to all of that. And I will not continue to go back and do a hula hoop and wipe my butt with old stuff until my hands get dirty. And sorry, but I'm a little bit more passionate about this than most people. Please like and subscribe to this channel. Post your comments, thoughts, criticisms. Till next time, Pavarotti's